Hi guys, welcome back. This podcast is going to be on a serious topic. Today I wanted to discuss
Mhm,
about how to deal with depression and anxiety. Initially, I
mhm,
had the question if I was the right person to talk about it or not. And it is natural for
mhm,
me to ask that question because I never really suffered from depression and anxiety. So I
mhm.
actually messaged Alina, like we had her as a guest in podcast. Alina, welcome back. We've had her before. So I actually messaged her because she has been through it, and so I thought she could speak about it better than I could. And last we did speak about it on the last podcast, but we didn't dive deeper into it. So Elena, thank
Yeah.
you so much for doing this, and this time we'll dive in deeper. And I want to tell you, I really love the way that you are always there to help for a good cause and share the wisdom.
Yeah.
Like I remember
No,
when I messaged you, you instantly agreed to this one. So
yeah, no,
thank you.
100%. I mean, the main thing is like what you said when you say to be going through depression. It's sort of something that will always be with you your whole life. It's not something that's like a cold, that you recover from. It's an ongoing illness, basically, that you'll always kind of have. It's just about managing it.
So actually, I wanted to start by explaining to people that there's a huge difference between clinical depression and just feeling sad. So I think if I'm not wrong, clinical depression is a problem for body. It's like a hormonal problem where the chemicals in the brain behave differently and cause hormonal imbalance. While common depression is something which we all have faced when we lose someone close to us or don't get desired results or break up or something like that. So Elena, you've gone
So,
through both if I'm not wrong.
so the thing is that it's a human emotion to be sad, that's natural, but depression is more like it's an ongoing kind of sadness, it's an ongoing battle. It's like a consistency of so many lows, that you just can't come out of. Like
So
that's the
how
main difference.
So do you still have that, or is it like does it end, or what is it like?
That's what I mean. Like depression isn't like a one-off thing. Depression is like an ongoing battle that you'll always have. It's an illness that you suffer from. So that's the thing. It's not like a one-off thing that 1 week you're fine and 1 week you're not. Depression is like an ongoing battle, and you then manage it. Some people manage it through medication. Other people manage it through other means. So I don't like taking medication, therefore I don't. But then I manage it through different like outlets. So it's very important to differentiate between, you know, being down and having an off day and depression. And there's nothing wrong with suffering from it. It's like your arm gets hurt, so then you fix it. But then your mind can also get hurt. So therefore you have to treat that as well.
What is the effect of clinical depression on someone? How does it?
It's like I can only speak from like my experience and people who are close to me who suffer from depression. It's just you feel that there's no way out. So you always just like, for me, I can only describe it as like you just feel like this heavy sadness, like this dark cloud, and you just can't see the sunshine, basically. For me, that's my experience, how I would describe it as. Other people have different, their depression is different. Like each person is different. Some people will maybe like constantly cry all the time, or they'll be super erratic. Like they'll go from like extreme highs to extreme lows.
So
There's like a
what do you?
generalized like certain symptoms, but it's kind of personal to the individual as to, which part they fall under.
So how do you think one? Why do people like get depression or clinically depressed? How do they catch it? Is
No, no,
that
no.
what happened? Is that
It's not about, that's the thing. It's not about catching it. It's just something that just happens. I mean, sometimes, there are scientists that say, oh, it's like a hormonal imbalance and things like that. But we have to be careful with the terminology that's used, because it's not something that you just catch, It's just sometimes you just get to that point where it's just, you just constantly feel low and you just don't see a way out. And it's just important to treat it, how, that it is an illness, and there's nothing wrong with it. You just have to seek help. That's the main thing.
So how do you deal with it?
It's wrong to describe it as something that you catch, because it's not something that you catch. It's not like a cold. It's just that your brain is just unwell and needs healing. It needs, you know, an outlet. It might need a medication if there's a hormonal imbalance, or, you know, you might need to see a therapist and things like that. Like, everyone knows one of the main Bollywood actresses, Deepika Padukone, who suffers from depression. You know, so it's wrong to say that it's just something you catch.
So how does one deal with it if they do suffer from it?
So a lot of people take medication. From my experience, I don't like taking medication. I go down the homeopathic route, and I write a lot and I speak a lot to my friends, and that is my outlet. Like, that's how I'm able to kind of manage it. And like, I'm more aware of when I have like extreme lows. You can spot the signs before you know that you're going to sink, and then you just take action. But every person, it's a personal battle, it's a personal journey.
Okay, so I don't really have much knowledge about this topic, so I'm not, if my questions may be silly, but it's just in my mind. So let's say, so when we are young and all, when we're 20s, 30s and all, we usually are always happy and all that stuff. But you said we can't really catch the depression. It's not like a cold. So how does it happen? Like a phase from normal happiness, everything's going fine, to that phase where
no one really knows like how it happens. Sometimes it's just like a trigger, and you just find yourself like constantly just in a dark space. You know, there's no kind of sign. There's different things where they say, you know, it's kind of like, it can be like lifestyle, or it can just be like environmental changes, or it can be hormonal changes, and it just happens. You know, sometimes even like the richest and wealthiest of people can suffer from it. It's not, it doesn't discriminate, you know. It is something that can just happen to people. And the important thing is just to seek help.
So, but do you think there's a relation of a clinical depression and a lack of nutrition? Is there a relation between that or no?
No.
So, okay. I'm not really sure about this topic, so I don't have many questions put up, but this is what was in my mind actually.
It's not, it's about breaking taboo. It's not because, say, for example, you're not healthy and things like that. These things just happen. And it's important to break the whole stigma around it. You know, if your immune system is low, you treat it. If your brain is low, you also treat that. You know, that's the main thing. And it's about people being more understanding and not treating it as if you're like a leper or something like that, that you're contagious. You know, people need to understand that sometimes people can be really hurting, or that they can be in a really bad state. And it's just important that then if someone comes to you and they want to talk to you, just be there for them. That's the main thing.
So how do you think we as a society should change those people? How should we change?
People treat depression as if it's just like, if a mother tells a friend, oh, my daughter's suffering from depression, you know, the reaction when people say, oh my God, like, you know, then people gossip and things like that. You know, it's just like, get a grip. Someone can have like a brain that's not well. You know, it doesn't mean that the parenting is bad or the lifestyle is bad or anything like that. So it's about breaking that myth, and that mental health should be recognized as something serious. You know, like mental health isn't spoken about in India. It's just not spoken about. You know, and you know, more should be done. More should be done, for example, in schools to make, you know, for example, people like you and like, you know, the rest of the population like aware that, you know, people should be able to talk about mental health without being judged. I wouldn't judge someone if like they had like chickenpox or if they had malaria. So why would you judge someone if their brain was unwell? You know?
I think it's not really taken seriously at all, because what happens when someone talks about that, okay, I have mental health, it's really, first of all, the fact is really hard to believe that, because we're usually experiencing a normal environment and we're seeing that person happy, smiling and all, and then when they tell us that they're suffering from clinical depression or something, it becomes really hard on our side to believe, and we're thinking it's a joke or something. So I think that is one of the problems.
Yeah, because you can be depressed and experience extreme highs and extreme lows, and sometimes people don't want to speak about it. So they put on a front that they're super happy and that everything's fine. You know, there's no set guide to like, okay, you have to have XYZ symptoms to be classed as depressed. You know, there's a general like understanding of, you know, certain symptoms, but people shouldn't judge that. You know, people think, okay, for example, if you think of the term depressed, you think sadness, heavy heart, but there's so much more to it than that. There's erratic behavior, there's extreme highs, there's extreme lows, you know, there's so much more. So people have to basically start from the beginning and not come with all these sorts of stereotypes.
So what happens to you when you're suffering? Like, do you get snappy? Do you get upset? What do you go through at those moments?
I just go really low and quiet. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to be around anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. I just switch off from the world. That's what I do. I switch off. I don't want to. So that's the thing. People have different experiences. Some people can feel like suicidal. You know, some people can go out and just, they want to sleep with so many people. People deal with it differently, which is where like medication and things, like in order to manage it so that you kind of plateau instead of having this kind of, you know, up and down and up and down.
So have you...
But my friends recognize, like I've been able to be more open with my friends. So I know that when I'm feeling that I'm sinking, I tell my friend, like my best friend, I tell them that, okay, like today's like a bad day, I'm feeling like really low. And they'll just sit there with me, or they'll sit on the phone. You know, they won't talk or anything like that, but they'll just sit there because just to make me feel that I'm not alone. I mean, they just want to like be there, because it's not really like a loneliness thing. Just sometimes, I don't know, I just switch off from the world. That's it. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to be around anyone. Like, that's it. And then you just start overthinking, and then it's just this cycle.
So from our side, when we see someone clinically depressed, what should we do? Should we, like, if they're saying they want to cut off, should we let them be, or do we try to help them out? Do we take them out? What do we do? What should
I think you should just you should make it clear, listen, I'm here if you want to talk. Even if you don't want to talk, I will sit with you. You know, sometimes just sitting next to a person in silence is all that's needed, just for them to know that they're not alone with what they're feeling, that you're just there for them. You can't force a person, but you can just sit there and be there for them.
So you said you don't really like taking medication, the pill side about it, right? Yeah, but have you consumed it before?
No.
Never.
But I know people close to me, very close to me, that have, and it's just I've never really taken antibiotics anyway, because I've always been super allergic to medication. But it's something that I wanted to control. But if the doctor did tell me that he suggested in his opinion that I should take it, but I've been able to find other outlets that work for me. But if it got worse as I got older, then of course I would take like medication to help. But for now, it's under control.
But do you think they would have a side effect, the medication, the pills?
No, I mean, I think everything in life has side effects. Even from like the food that you eat has like side effects. So, I mean, paracetamol, like, you know, some of the most like basic things have side effects. People smoke, people drink, that has side effects. People shouldn't be put off by the fact that, oh, you know, this medication has this side effect. Everything you do in life has an effect. So it would be unfair to kind of say, if you take this medication, then something's going to happen. I mean, they tell you with any antibiotic, it's not an antibiotic, but with any medication, you shouldn't just come off something immediately. You should always consult, you know, clinical advice, and you should follow the dosages that the doctor says and things like that. But again, that's very personal between yourself and the doctor.
So when you feel that low, when you like you said, you tell your friend that you're feeling low, and then they're like prepared, they tell you they're waiting for you. Are there any activities you do to make you feel better, or is there nothing?
So I go for a walk, but mainly for me, I blast a lot of music and I try and distract my mind. That's what I do, because my mind just works at like a million miles per hour. So I try and recognize that if I feel that I'm sinking, I try and like distract myself.
So
And I basically try and like internally fight it. So I take homeopathic medication, and that's what works for me. It kind of calms me, and I'm able to go about my day.
But is that like you can do anything on a daily basis? Is that something which you do, or nothing? It's just normal.
No, it's just like normal. Like every day I take like homeopathic, but that's because it just relaxes me. Like that's it. But I mean, even if I do take it, sometimes I have bad days, but I kind of train my mind to kind of think of either positive things or to, you know, force myself to do stuff. Like I will call my friend. Whereas before I would just want to be by myself. I forced myself to do stuff.
So there's this huge myth which I've even noticed around, and I've heard people talk about it also, which is that if you're feeling sad, if you're suffering from depression, they're like they take it as a joke. So I've heard people around me, some of my friends specifically, to say that they would say that have a cup of coffee, that will make you feel better. That will make you feel if you're feeling low, that will make you feel better. Have a chocolate or something.
Yeah, but I feel like that's just very ignorant. You know, that's what I mean. People need to educate themselves more about like mental health. Here in the UK, we have literally like mental health, like awareness week, you know, awareness month and everything like that. It's something that is constantly spoken about, and it's made clear to like the British public that it's not something to be ashamed about. And it's not a joking matter. It's not something like you can say to someone, oh, you know, oh, you'll be fine, cheer up, things could be worse. That's not supportive. That I find that very patronizing and condescending, and you're not going to bring about change by being stuck in such a kind of old mindset. Because it's a serious illness. Like people, and there's like different grades to it, but it's just people need to be aware that, you know, this is a very important topic and there should be no shame. Like if, and no one would have literally the balls to judge me, because I'm like, who are you to judge me? Yes, so what? I have good days, I have bad days. I suffer from depression, and what? You know, it's a part of who I am. It doesn't define me. I define who I am.
I'm not sure about this, but is anxiety also related to depression, anxiety and fear, or is that a completely different topic?
I mean, like some people can have anxiety without having depression. I have like horrific anxiety, but again, like I can control it, you know? So, I mean, you don't have to have everything to be classed as like, you know, clinically depressed and everything like that, but you can suffer from anxiety. I mean, a lot of people control their anxiety through, I mean, again, there's a difference between being nervous and being anxious, you know, suffering from anxiety. A lot of people can, you know, control it like with their breathing and things like that.
So this is the topic which is new to me, so I really didn't know much about it, but is there something which you would like to talk about? Something which I have skipped or missed?
No, I just think it's good that you're raising awareness, because I mean, I guess the public are becoming more aware of mental health in India because of what's happened recently. But, you know, I'm hoping that this is the starting point that people start to talk about it, because if you want to bring about change and you want to understand something, you have to talk about it. You have to do your due diligence. You have to like teach yourself to understand it, recognize the symptoms like in your friends, and just be a good human being and be there for someone and not judge someone. There's no reason to judge someone at all if they have a mental health issue. As a human being, you should be there to help them. And it's important to have the conversation and know that there's no shame in talking about it. But if someone's going to judge you, then who the hell are they? Like, seriously.
But what if someone is suffering from depression? How do they tell that to another person? Because there may be people. Yeah,
that's a personal choice. Like, no one knew about my depression until I did my TED Talk, because it wasn't something I personally felt comfortable with talking about. So it comes down as well to the individual. Sometimes people don't want to tell anyone, and that's up to them. I just feel now that I'm comfortable in talking about it. If you'd asked me 4 years ago, I wouldn't have spoken about it. I just felt that like I just didn't want to. It wasn't anyone's business, and I just felt I felt that I didn't understand it enough also personally. Like, and so I wanted to deal with it myself and understand it and know, you know, what was happening, how I was feeling, and taking time out for myself before I brought anyone else into that circle. So again, it's like a personal choice. Sometimes people don't want to talk, and you have to respect that. If someone doesn't want to talk about it, just be like, okay, fine. I understand you don't want to talk about it, but understand that I'm there for you, you know? Check in on that person. Takes 2 seconds to check in on a person. Are you okay? And literally mean it. Don't be like, are you okay? And then just not really care. You know, a lot of people say, hey, how are you? And they'll say, oh yeah, I'm fine. But are they really fine?
So how did you get to that stage where you felt like you were suffering through it, or you mentally came to know that you were suffering from it? Because sometimes you may not even know.
I remember it precisely. It was coming up to the end of 2016. I felt that everything was falling apart, and I'd never ever felt that way in my life before. I remember I was non-stop crying, and I went to my doctor, and I didn't tell anyone. And I went to my doctor, and I never go to my doctor. And I actually went to him to get some medication for my migraines. And then he just said to me, oh, so Elena, I never see you, because like you're always like healthy and stuff like that. I never see you. How are you? And then I just burst out crying, and I couldn't stop crying. And then just everything came out, every problem, every issue, how I was feeling, and how I felt so low that I just didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to be in this world anymore. And my doctor literally, bless him, he cancelled like every other appointment. And I just sat there and I was just crying. Like I remember it in my head. Like my hair was all curly and it was just tied back in a bun. Like I didn't care about my appearance. And I remember it was really cold. I was wearing my grey jacket and my boots, and I just couldn't stop crying. Like to the outside world, my life looked perfect, you know, but I remember sitting there with my doctor, Dr. Dar. Yeah. And I couldn't stop crying. And there's like a history of depression in my family. And he said to me, he gave me the whole like counselor's list and everything. And he said to me that he would like to prescribe me medication. And I said, no, like I've got a grip on it. I can do this. And he said, listen, whenever you feel like this, he said he doesn't care how many people are waiting in the clinic. I just come in and come straight through. And then the thing is that even though he had diagnosed it at that time, he said, you come back and see me in 2 weeks' time. He said, do you promise? And I said, yes. I didn't go back in 2 weeks' time because I didn't want to acknowledge, I guess, the reality of the situation, because I still felt that like I was a failure, like it was a bad thing. But as time goes on, I realized that it's not, you know?
It's not a sign of weakness.
And it was just like, yeah, exactly. That was the thing, because I'm always used to being like so strong. Everyone who knows me knows that like I'm super strong. So I didn't want to feel like I was a failure. So I had to kind of deal with it and, you know, kind of face myself properly in the mirror and accept that, you know, saying there's nothing wrong with me. It's not bad to be experienced this or to be diagnosed, you know? And I can talk about it now. You asked me like 4 years ago, I would not have said a word. But now it's like I openly talk about it. And when I do openly talk about it, you'd be surprised at how many people then tell me about like their battles and their journeys. So then you're actually able to help and share experiences, you know, like what works for you and like things like that.
So is there any specific reason which made you like what the change was 4 years back to now? Or what is it like? What's the reason?
What is in that how I can talk about it now? I think it was just more of kind of that it kind of put everything into perspective for me. I guess it put like my life into perspective and people around me and just like everything I was doing and my career. And I decided that I needed to take control of my life and I needed to make certain changes and I had to prioritize myself. Like I'm really terrible at prioritizing myself. Ask anyone, I'm like the worst. And I think this gave me the kick up the arse that I had to take control of my life and I had to do things my way and just, you know, at my pace and be able to say no to people and to just try and be happy. You know, being happy and stuff sometimes is a journey, but you get there.
So in a way, I'm not sure, has this helped you improve your decision-making skill? Because I think before you send your TED Talk, before you used to be like, yes to everything. And you should try to multitask a lot.
So I'll give you an example. Like recently, obviously, Reels launched in India. Well, only for like select like people, whatever. So then I was able to do Reels. You know, the new Instagram feature, Reels. And I'd say like 99% of comments, for example, were like super positive and kind. But then you had some really aggressive like trolls, you know, them saying, you know, that it would be that, you know, I deserve to be raped because of like what I wore and things like that. And Rishi Raj, who you know, he was concerned because he didn't want it to get into my head. And I said to him, I said, don't worry, like literally, I don't care about these things. If someone's going to hide behind a computer screen, I literally like don't care. I don't care for any negativity in my life. I really don't, because I'm like, you're not paying my bills. So I don't care. I literally, like, I don't care. Someone can say something bad to me and I'm like, who are you? Like, I care. I do not care. I'm like, I've achieved so much in my life. I've got my legal studies, I've got my charity work, my acting career, my modeling career. I don't give a crap about any like rubbish that people say about me. I actually pity them. I literally think, I feel so sorry for you that you feel the need to take out your anger and your hatred, because that's what it is, out on me. So I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's that way also. So it's funny because I feel empathy for them, because they actually have time to go through a 15-second reel. Then they will think another 30 seconds about thinking something negative and another 1 minute to type it out, and all they're just wasting their time to spread negativity in the world, while that is not even having an impact on anyone. So it's kind of bad.
I started responding because I don't understand that mindset. And Rishi Raj was like, Elena, just don't even bother, because it's like talking to a rock. You can't educate someone who is ignorant, and you cannot educate someone who is so full of hate and disgust, because that's something internal. That's something that they have to deal with. That's their battle. So then I just don't respond. I'm just like, sod it. Like, if you're going to take your time to troll me, I don't really care. But I will report you to the cyberbullying. So, because it's just, people need to just learn that behavior is unacceptable. It really is unacceptable. You would think, given the current climate, that people would be more aware that their words and things can have a damage like on people. But obviously, like, people are just like stupid at times and they don't see the link. I'm like, all right, I'm sure your parents or your sister or your friends will be proud of you, you know, to troll someone. Like, yeah, that makes you such a big person.
But do you think when, at the times when you're feeling low and you see these comments or something like that, does that have an even worse impact on you, or you just don't feel that time?
No, simply because I'm just like dumb. I'm just like, you're dumb. Like, but probably if you'd have asked me maybe 4 years back when I felt much weaker, it may have like had more of an effect on me. But these days I'm like, I really don't care. Like, you're not going to stop me from living my life. You're not going to stop me from posting whatever the hell I want on social media, because I'm going to do me. If you have a problem with it, don't look. If you feel the need to comment, understand that I'm not going to pay attention because I don't care.
I saw this video, I think about 2 years back, and it's 2 years back, but I still remember it very well. It was a video by Gary Vee. And Gary Vee said that he doesn't listen to the yeas or the boos. He doesn't focus on the positive and negative. So nothing gets in his mind. Because there are a lot of people, those are people who focus a lot on the yeas. When they get the boos, when they get the bad stuff on them, thrown at them, even that affects them. While there are people who don't let the positive or the negative affect them. It's just in their mind.
It is difficult to not get affected. But the thing is, you just got to remember, this is a pathetic human being hiding behind a computer screen. That's how you just got to remember, like, always remember, this is literally someone who clearly hates themselves and hate their life. And they'll be like, no, I don't hate my life. I'm like, but you clearly do if you're going to randomly troll someone who you don't even know. Like, it's so pointless and so stupid that I literally can't understand that level of stupidity. Like, literally, I'm like, that's like IQ minus like 900. It's just so dumb. It literally is the most stupid thing in the world. But hey, you want to be stupid, you can be stupid.
So right now you said 2020 you're dealing with it in a different way and not letting it affect you, but you said 2016 you dealt with the trolls and negative comments differently. So how was it back then?
No, 2016 I was like in a very bad place, you know. So, but to be honest, I didn't really have much negativity in terms of like social media. I mean, these days even I don't really go on social media that much. Like once I post a reel, I'm like, that's it. Or like once I do a post, I'm like, yeah, that's it. I'm not going to go back and like check the comments and stuff. I mean, sometimes I look through it, but it just doesn't affect me anymore. And most of the people are actually really nice. There's obviously just those few that have to be stupid. I mean, the irony is that when some of them write in Hindi, I'm like, yeah, I don't even understand that. So like the joke's on you because it's like wasted, you know? So I'm like, all right. And sometimes if I'm bored, I'll just sit there and block because, you know, it's fun. I don't care.
But I think you've had a really huge positive impact on a lot of people. And I think I got a lot of comments and replies after. I remember I posted my podcast with you. A lot of people, they just look at you as a pretty person, but I think they connected with you on a deeper level. So that was really amazing, that the response to that.
I was able to do that, like, you know, with my TED Talk. That's when I was able to, like, well, I was speaking for half an hour on my TED Talk. But it just, people need to remember that just because you see someone doesn't mean like that's who they are as a person. What you see here is not who I am as a person. How I look is not who I am as a person, you know? Like, I'm such an introvert. You know, I love nothing more than like staying at home. I'll watch movies, I'll have dinner, like I'll play with my cats, I'll chill with my friends, you know? If people want to judge me, I'm like, go ahead, like I really don't care. Like, I feel bad for you that you feel the need to talk about me and think about me. So, you know.
But yeah, I think that was the coolest thing. I think I remember firstly, people were, when I put out the thing that I was doing a podcast with you, people were looking at the glamour part. They were like, oh, okay, that's a model and all, that's so cool. After they saw the whole podcast, they had a different perception about you. You know, so that is really cool. So,
I mean, like people just shouldn't judge in general. Like I don't judge anything. I like to get to know people. Like I don't know. Like it was just how like we were in school and stuff. You just don't judge. I mean, who are you to judge? Who is anyone to judge anyone else? I mean, I was raised like strict Catholic. We're taught that the only one that can judge you is God. You know, when you go into purgatory. Otherwise, no one can judge you. Like, who are you to judge anyone? Therefore, it's never been like my mindset to think, oh my God, that person looks so fabulous. They must be such a like, you know, bitch and things like that. You know, I'm just like, oh my God, that person is so fabulous. I wish I had like her stuff. You know, I wish I had her style. Like, you got to train yourself negatively.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need to train ourselves. So I remember there was a phase of mine where I used to judge people directly without even knowing them. Even if I heard some gossip about them, if it was based on some gossip or just the way you perceive it from the outward perception, you're just judging them that, okay, this person is rude, this person is nice, this person looks pretty. So it's just like that. And then slowly, there were times when I realized after talking to that person, it turned out that the person was completely different. And I think since then,
most people when they meet me are scared of me, and then they get to know me and they're like, oh, you're actually really nice. I'm like, well, yeah, if you'd spoken to me, then you'd realize that I'm actually a really nice person. I just have like a natural resting bitch face. Like, that's it.
And
otherwise,
after you're actually really sweet. So even I was kind of scared. Would it happen or would it not happen? Like the first podcast, and then I DM'd you. So
and then I remembered. I literally remembered that we still had to do like this one. So I messaged you. I was just like, hey, so like, does this work for you? You know, I'm not one of those people that like have ego and stuff like that. I'm like, well, what's the point? Seriously, like life is too short. Like, just live your goddamn life. That's it. And if people are gonna judge you or be mean to you, just cut them out. It doesn't matter if they're your best friends. It doesn't matter if they're like your family, your partner, whatever. If anyone is bringing you down, cut them out. Very simple.
Yeah, and I think that requires a lot of training of mind. And by training of mind, it can be even the type of content we consume. It can be the negative content we consume or the positive one. Both of them have an impact. So I think it depends on that also.
Cut out anything that is not adding to your life. If it doesn't add any value to your life, then don't even entertain it. I literally have like, it's not even that I have zero patience. I just don't waste my time. I don't have time to waste. There's so much that I want to do with my life that if you're going to be negative or if you're going to waste my time, I literally will just not even engage. Because it's pointless. My time is precious.
I had to ask you about this article. I had to ask you about this article actually. So I think there was an article put up that you got cats from Mumbai to London. Did that happen? Like from the stray cats? Could you tell us about that a bit?
Oh, that's my so each of my, well, pretty much every cat that I have, I found like in horrific conditions, like in Mumbai. Like one of them, like his skin was cut, the other one was kicked in the face, you know, and then I couldn't find fosters for them, or like I couldn't get them adopted. So I thought, to be honest, as soon as like I bring a cat into like my home, that cat is like never leaving. So then it was like a first for Indian Customs. It was a first for British Airways of flying 7 street cats basically from Bombay to London. And now they live like happily here. They're bloody snobs, you know? They think they're too good for everything. But, you know, they live happily ever after. Like for me, most people always ask, you prefer acting or modeling? I love my charity work. The acting and modeling give me a platform to do my charity work.
Yeah, I've noticed
Like,
a lot on your page. I think a lot on your page. Even when you find someone, a cat or a street dog in Mumbai, you will be putting up a story to find help for them. And if you can, you will have someone from your team do that. Yeah.
I know what means. I know my morals, and I know my values. I know what's important to me. So I don't give a crap what anyone else thinks. Like, I'm the most like low maintenance person there is. And any guy I dated, which isn't actually that many. That's the thing. So people think of how I look, that I must date a lot and I go out, but I'm not. I'm a full-on Disney princess. I believe in Disney. I grew up on Disney. So I believe in like Prince Charming and everything like that. I've always had like long-term relationships. So, and then people were just like, oh my God, she must have had her lips done, or she's like, I remember like someone said to me, oh, they're like, did you have Botox done? In my head, I was thinking, with what money? And that I had my breast implants. And I'm like, again, with what money? I'm not the kind of person that spends a lot of money on myself. I just don't, because I would rather put it towards my charity work. And for the record, I've never had any surgery, because for everyone who knows me knows I am petrified of needles. And I'm like petrified of dying, like in the sense that I've got too much to do, that I would be really pissed off if I died. So that's how I see it. Like, I'm not scared of death. It would just be a massive inconvenience.
But what do you, so a lot of people out there who, I've noticed it a lot. So in fact, I think I'm from Gujarat, but I stay in Goa. So I think once I was in Gujarat, I noticed one of my neighbors there was beating up a street dog. And when we told him not to do that, he started fighting with us. So what do you want to tell to those kind of people out there? Like,
Indian law says that you can, Indian law specifically states that you can feed a stray animal. That is Indian law. It doesn't matter what the freaking society says. It doesn't matter even what the cop says. It's Indian law that you can feed a stray animal. And if anyone stops you, you can file an FIR. That is the law. That is Indian law. No one freaking stops me from feeding strays. No way. Firstly, I'm 5'10". I'm like so much like taller than like the majority of the population. Secondly, I'm not going to let an animal starve just because you find it an inconvenience, or you find that, you know, an animal is a nuisance. I'm like, you're a human being. You either go and pray or worship or yada, 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 but then you don't take care of what's around you. I mean, I hate hypocrites. No, and no one can stop you from feeding a stray. It's illegal. Yeah, if they try doing it, you go far enough.
It's not just in the law, it even comes down to humanity and mankind and even the culture itself. So, in fact, I feed stray dogs outside my house. And the thing is, my mom actually told me this when I was really very small, that it's the way you do it. Whatever money we make, there's different parts of it. There's parts for us, but there are also parts for animals that can't speak. There are parts we need to do our work for the trees around us, the forest, by taking care of them. So in every Indian household also there's a tulsi plant. So
yeah, you just have to be a human being. You know, like, yeah, all I can say, you should just be a human being. It's your responsibility as a human being to help those who, you know, need help. And if you don't do anything and you stand by when you see that there's an injustice, then you're equally as bad. That's how I see it as. So you are equally complicit. If you don't do anything when you see something bad happening, you are equally as complicit. You should never stand by and say nothing when something is like unjust. You just shouldn't. I mean, like, sometimes I've been by myself when I take on like so many people, if I'm feeding a stray, I don't care. I know what my responsibility is as a human being, and I also know what the Indian law is, so I don't care. I will take on 1,000 people. because it's the right thing to do. It doesn't matter if you're in the minority. If it's the right thing, it's moral, and it's the just thing to do as a human being, then freaking do it. Or what? Because your friends are going to judge you, or your partner's going to judge you. My former partners judged me. My friends have judged me. I don't care. I cut them out. I still keep doing what I believe is the right thing to do.
And I think I really appreciate you for that, because I think it requires a lot of strength to do what you do. Like
Yes,
going against 1,000 people.
but if you want change to happen, you have to start with yourself. You have to stand up for any injustice that you see. Like, a lot of people say, oh, but the city is so polluted, yada yada, but then they'll throw their rubbish on the street. I'm like, well, how can you expect change to happen if you don't make the change yourself?
So, Elena, do you have any last notes before we end this?
Oh, let me see, last notes. Not really. I just think that in terms of depression, people should know that there is nothing wrong if you're diagnosed with depression. There's absolutely nothing wrong. It doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't make you a crap human being, nothing like that. But I do encourage that if you do feel low or erratic behavior, to then please seek help. Don't be embarrassed. Do not be ashamed. Seriously. Look after yourself. Make you a number one priority. And don't give a crap about what anyone else thinks. Seriously. Because they might not even be there with you in like 50 years' time. So literally do not give a crap. Prioritize yourself. And be good.
Okay, so thanks so much, everyone. Thanks so much for being a part of this, Lena. I will actually link your handles down below on the description, and maybe they can DM you, and luckily, if they're lucky enough, they can maybe like get an answer or something. Like if they're suffering with anything.
The thing is that I do respond to as many people as I can, but understand that I'm also juggling my work. I have to earn. If I don't earn, then strays don't get fed and neutered and stuff. But I do try. So I say, please just have some patience. And if I haven't got round to responding to you yet, then please don't take it personally. It's most likely because I haven't seen it. Like, I'm not a mean person. Like, I just my time is just so at times tight. So please don't take it personally if I haven't responded.
So thank you so much, Lena.